Welcome to Paradise in the Pines, a podcast about the people, places, and stories that make this the home of American golf. Brought to you by the Pinehurst Southern Pines Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Paradise in the Pines. I'm Phil Wurz, President and CEO of the Pinehurst Southern Pines Aberdeen Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And joining us in Paradise in the Pines today is Natalie Hawkins, the president of the Moore County Economic Development Partnership. Almost as long a name as we have for the CVB, but a very effective one, and it recently changed. So we'll talk about that. But Natalie, thanks for joining us in Paradise in the Pines.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Great having you here. You didn't know it was a video podcast.
No.
But you look amazing, as always, and we appreciate you being here. You've done a fabulous job. I first met you, I came here 5 years ago, and you're working for the Village of Pinehurst. Mm-hmm. If you're not familiar with Natalie's background, she worked, and she could talk about this, but she basically replaced Pat Corso, which used to be Partners in Progress.
Correct.
So talk about your transition from the Village of Pinehurst to your current role and how it's been going.
Yeah, so I used to work, as you mentioned, at the Village of Pinehurst. I was assistant village manager there for 17 years, total 20 years at the village. And when Pat Corso, my predecessor, announced his retirement, I took him out to lunch to congratulate him and just chat with him. And a few minutes into lunch, he pushed his seat back and said, "Are you ready to talk about taking my job?" And I said, "What? No." I don't think so. But, I thought about it and, prayed about it. And I honestly felt pretty led that that's the path and the direction that I was supposed to take. So about 2 years ago is when I started with Partners in Progress at the time. And you mentioned we have changed our name recently to Moore County Economic Development Partnership.
What prompted the name change?
Well, what I found is as I started interacting with my colleagues across the state and North Carolina Economic Development Association, NCEDA, I would say I'm with Partners in Progress. And as I was meeting new people, I would say I'm with Partners in Progress. And it didn't resonate with them what that was or what we did.
Yeah.
So I felt it was pretty important to have economic development in our organization's name. And so took a proposal to the board, and they approved it.
And it really mirrors, as you said, the state, because the Economic Development Partnership of North Carolina, and Chris Chung, who heads that, does an amazing job.
Correct.
How much is he an inspiration to you from a statewide level? Because obviously you had to hit the ground running.
Yeah. So Chris is an inspiration to economic developers across the state of North Carolina, including myself. He's extremely articulate, very knowledgeable. I think he does a great job of building relationships with others and leveraging those relationships to the benefit of the entire state of North Carolina. So he definitely is a role model for me.
What does economic development mean to you in Moore County specifically? Mm-hmm. We are, from a tourism standpoint, we're the 10th largest tourism economy in the state. Obviously, the linchpin is Pinehurst Resort and everything they do in the USGA, and we'll get into all that stuff later. But, what do you see as the vision for the future for economic development in Moore County?
Mm-hmm. So my organization does have a strategic plan, and our board every year does a strategic planning retreat where we try to talk about, what's going on around us and recognizing the environment that we're in and how that might have changed in the past and where we need to be focusing our efforts. And, for us right now, my number one priority is to support our existing businesses, period. So if we have a business that needs help trying to find an area to expand their company, if they need workforce development solutions, things of that nature, then that's going to be our number one priority, is helping our existing Moore County businesses be successful and help them grow. And then secondly, another big focus area for us right now is supporting entrepreneurship. I think when we look at Moore County's economy, it's very diverse, and it's small businesses that are really the backbone of an economy. And so we have this entrepreneurial spirit here, especially with the large, military population that we have. A lot of individuals coming here to start a new business. So we are, focused on supporting them. And in fact, we have an entrepreneurship task force, and we are hosting on November 14th an entrepreneurship summit at the Fair Barn. It'll be 5:30 to 8:30. And we have a committee that's working on the planning and preparations for that event. But just wanting to make sure that if there's someone in Moore County that wants to start a new business or has a small business and wants it to grow and expand, just want to make sure that they know we are a resource for them and we can put them in contact and in touch with other support organizations.
You mentioned the diversity in Moore County, from the businesses here in the southern end of the county, agritourism, agriculture, farming, and then the industry. Then we'll talk about all 421, the Carolina Core, and things like that. But what I love about it is there are not many chains here. I mean, I know we're getting a Target. I mean, it's the big deal. We're getting a Target. But I mean, I think with local, people that take pride in their business. And you mentioned workforce development. How much of a challenge is that? Because finding people to work, it's a huge challenge in the tourism industry for hotels, restaurants, things like that. What are you seeing, and what are the challenges that lie ahead, and what are maybe some of the solutions?
Yeah, I think that workforce is definitely a challenge, and I think it's going to remain that way for quite some time into the foreseeable future. Obviously, the COVID pandemic hit our economy as well as the world economy in a significant way. But a lot of the jobs that we lost because of COVID were in the hospitality and retail areas. Those industries that surround itself around tourism, if you will. Fortunately, we've recovered all of those jobs that were lost, and now we're even at a higher employment level than pre-COVID. So that's good news for our economy. But as it relates to workforce development, I continue to hear from our employers that they can't find the employees they need. If they find them, they work 2 days and then they quit. That's almost like a revolving door, if you will. And I think there are several things that we are doing as an organization, working with others and collaborating with Moore County Schools as well as Sand Hills Community College and the Chamber of Commerce to try to put resources in our employer hands. We've also seen a lot of wage growth, a lot of pressure on wages. So in fact, in the last 3 years, average wages in Moore County have gone up 25% in 3 years. And so you've got this this kind of situation where the employees is demanding more. I want more money, I want more flexibility, I want to work remote. So they're kind of sitting in the driver's seat, if you will. And so what our employers are finding is they're having to train their employees themselves. So the days of when you could go out and say, I need a person with this particular skill set, and find that person, those days, are gone.
Right.
And what our employers are seeing is that they need to, hire people that have the ability to learn and the ability to obtain the skill sets that are needed. And then that's where it's really, really important that our employers are working directly with our school systems and our community college on apprenticeships and internship programs and helping support those programs through, allowing students to come in and see what kind of jobs they have in their business, or are coming and speaking to classes, or allowing some of your employees to be professors, or instructors at the community college. I think those things are really important. And those are the kinds of activities and things that we're promoting.
Because we want to keep the talent home. Keep them here.
Right.
And it's interesting. We had Bob Farron from Pinehurst Resort on a recent podcast, and he said that at a recent managers meeting at the resort, he said, how many people are from Moore County? And only 3 out of about 30 people raised their hands. It's like, that's a shame. That's on us. And so it's cool to see what you're doing, the USGA with what they're doing at Sand Hills Community College for the apprenticeship program to help them. Those are huge, very innovative ways to keep the talent here with some really competitive, skilled type jobs.
And I'll say this, that's an example of us helping an existing employer. So the USGA actually came to my organization, came to me directly and said, we want to create this apprenticeship program at Sand Hills Community College, something that we can replicate across the entire nation eventually. And so we were the person that put them in contact and connected them and helped facilitate some of those initial discussions that, of course, the USGA and the resort, took that ball and very happy to see that they've got, over 20 students in that first cohort. So,
and I've met a couple of those students, and they're super excited and very grateful for the opportunity to do that and build a skill and build a career and keep it here in Moore County.
Right.
Talking about Moore County, talk about the competition, because you read about Chatham County, Lee County, Wake County. How much competition is that? Because you're pitching all the time. You're getting phone calls every day, But how fierce is the competition? Because you talk about your cohorts in economic development around the state, but just like tourism, I mean, we compete with other destinations as well.
Yeah. So it's really it's really interesting to me to compare Moore County's economy to the economy of the 9 counties that surround us. And that's really kind of who we look at as probably competing with, if you will, the most for new businesses. Those counties have more land zoned for industrial, and commercial use, if you will, than Moore County does. And they have more places to put these businesses like Toyota and Wolfspeed and VinFast and
Are you referring to like infrastructure and everything they need to get started?
They have the infrastructure in place. They have the roads, the water, the sewer. They're partnering with other counties, so they're bringing water from this county to support major industries. But we're different. I mean, Moore County is, our niche is really more smaller businesses than a few larger businesses, if you will, right? So instead of having, a Toyota that brings, 2,000 jobs, I'd rather have 200 businesses that bring 100 jobs, right? And so we are focused more on what we call, niche manufacturing, if you will, in terms of competing, at least in that industry sector. Smaller businesses, 100,000, 50,000 square feet, 100 employees or less. We're not really in the market for, if you will, those larger projects that the North is seeing. And what we're seeing, you talked about businesses calling every day, is we are seeing record-breaking business leads, opportunities coming to our doorstep.
Yeah.
In fact, we probably on average respond to at least 3 new businesses coming to us to say we need space every week.
Yeah.
So 3 a week on average. Had 2 come in this morning before 8:30. So it's
wow.
I mean, there's a lot of interest in Moore County, and I think that's because of the wonderful quality of life that we offer. And we are different. We're not Chatham County. We're not Lee County.
Yeah.
We're not Richmond County. We have this paradise in the pines, if you will, quite frankly.
It's amazing because from a tourism standpoint, I give Wood Tuttle a hard time. It's like, we're not the mountains, we're not the beach, but, we're golf, and we're in the middle of the state, so we don't have those amenities that people dream about. And you see the images of tourism in North Carolina, because I give him a hard time. It's like, well, where are the golf shots? Because I always see the mountains, I always see the beach. But you're right. I mean, we are in a very special, idyllic kind of place that is timeless in some respects. Right. And in some areas we need to grow. So I know we hear it from a tourism standpoint, and I always say, well, our job is to get people to come here, spend all their money, and then go home.
Right.
But
that's
not stay.
My job.
So that's not my job. My job is to get them to come here, have a good time, and leave.
Right.
But I mean, but we also hear about, the growth of tourism. We want to increase our occupancy tax so we can build great things here in this destination. But, there are people out there, it's like, hey, how do you balance who we are, what we have been, our great history with where we're going to go in the next 5-10 years, which is going to see explosive growth.
I do think that we are going to see some continued growth, and I think that, I think you could probably attribute the growth that we've seen in the recent past in a lot to the efforts of your organization. Because when people visit here, they realize what a beautiful and wonderful place it is to be, and they come back and live here. So, I think there's a lot of that goes on in this community. In fact, I had a kid stay, our family stay in one of our rental units for the U.S. kids. He was playing in the tournament. He left me this sweet note. He's 9 years old. He said, I love this place and I want to live here.
Oh.
Yeah. He was from Virginia.
Okay.
So who knows, in 20 years that kid may be a full-time resident. But yes, to your point, it is hard to balance, right, growth with preserving and protecting really what we have that makes us so special, right? We don't want to kill the golden, the goose that laid the golden egg, if you will. But and that's why our focus is really on helping our existing businesses expand and focusing on entrepreneurship and new business growth and development, right? Because it's almost like it's a homegrown kind of economy and feel, and
Right.
the rural character of our community is really important. So, we rely on our local governments, obviously, to have standards to, protect corridors and
Yeah.
open space, make sure we've got plenty of that, and with new development. So, that stuff's not directly within our control, but what we can do is when a business says, I'm looking for space, we kind of say, okay, is this an appropriate business for Moore County? For example, we'll get leads from companies that, chemical processing. So there's noise and there's pollutants, and we just say no.
Yeah.
We say that's not Moore County. That's not appropriate.
It's nice to have that flexibility to
Yeah.
have that kind of judgment and to make
Yeah.
those calls.
Yeah.
When you talk about, and you read in the Triangle Business Story, you see articles about VinFast and Wolf Speed and Toyota. I mean, those are out of our county, but they were going to have a huge impact.
I believe so.
Infrastructure, we talked about infrastructure. I mean, it's going to have a huge impact on the northern end of the county. You work a lot with the county commissioners and Nick Pacerno, Frank Quist, and the rest of them. How much is that a priority for them? Because they know the northern end of the county is going to explode with these major industries to our north of 421.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you are aware of this. The audience may or may not be aware, but water supply is an important issue for our county commissioners right now, especially in the northern end of the county. Wastewater extensions to some of our northern communities, like Cameron, making sure there's projects for Vast, trying to make sure that they have the infrastructure that they need. But when I look at what's going on to the north of us, and how and I try to say, how will that impact Moore County? I think it's going to impact us in a number of ways. So first of all, we've had a record number of new business leads coming in the door this year, and a significant number of them are for companies that are suppliers of the automobile manufacturing market. So, for example, this morning was we got a lead from a company that makes automobile windshields. We get leads from people that make components of electric vehicle batteries. It's a continuous inflow of these suppliers to, the Toyotas and the VinFasts of the world.
For sure.
And so, and those are smaller operations, a couple 100,000 square feet. So we could have some of those types of companies locate here if we had the infrastructure. So I think the focus right now for the county commissioners and elected officials, across the county really is, if we want to position ourselves to retain what we have, we need to be very strategic about infrastructure improvements and enhancements, and not just roads, but water and sewer as well.
What about space? I mean, you talked about 100,000 square foot. I mean, I know Iron Horse is a big project you're working on. What about existing space for people like those niche, if they need to move in like now or in the near future? Is that a challenge with space? Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have space. So, and in fact, our competitors, if you will, across the state, those who have been successful in recruiting those types of new businesses to their communities, often have speculative building programs. So I think, for example, Richmond County has, with cooperation between the county and the city, I think they're on their 6th or 7th spec building. So, they'll make the investment in the infrastructure to create the physical space for the company, and then take the financial revenues or profit, if you will, from that transaction and move it on to the next. Yeah. Same things going on in Lee County. The same things going on in counties all across the state. Not here in Moore County, though.
Right.
And it all starts with land, right? You have to have land first and foremost. Without land, there's nothing. And so we don't have a lot of industrial zoned land or business park land. So what we've done is we've gotten some grants from the Golden Leaf Foundation, and we've identified some additional sites in Moore County. And I should say I would say right now we probably have 15 to 20 different sites that are being evaluated or have been recently evaluated. But the limitation is the infrastructure is not there. The water and the sewer and the natural gas isn't readily accessible. So I'm playing a long game.
Yeah.
I guess is what I'm trying to say, is that, it takes years to make sure that you've got that space ready. And I think we're in a position where we've got some options. And we're currently evaluating those options.
And I think it's important to have a vision. I know we think from a tourism standpoint, we're constantly thinking about what this is going to look like around the 2029 U.S. Open, 2030. So let's make some decisions, have a vision for the future. So what we want to have and what we want to see then, and not get to that point and go, man, I wish we'd have done that back in 2023. So, that's a big part of it as well.
Well, and and it is. And going back to your previous question, when we look at what's going on to the north of us, so the Toyota, the VinFast, and the Wolfspeed announcements, all within the last 12, 18 months, those three announcements represent over 11,000 jobs. So that is 1/3 of all of Moore County's employment.
Wow.
1/3. The total investment for all of those jobs is close to $13 billion. To put that in perspective of what's getting ready to happen to the north of us, prior to the revaluation, the entire Moore County tax base was $15 billion.
Holy cow.
3 projects, $13 billion in investment. All of Moore County's valuation, $15 billion in investment. In value. So these are significant projects, and I think that they will do a couple things. They're going to increase demand for housing. I think people are going to want to live in Moore County.
And affordable housing is a big deal.
Affordable housing is a big deal. I think we're going to see continued pressure on our wages as well, because all 3 of those projects, average wages are above Moore County's average wages. So, there's going to be some incentive for Moore County residents to make that short 30, 45-minute drive to potentially work at some of those facilities. And that's a concern of mine. That's a concern of our employers, who, as we talked about just a few minutes ago, are having trouble, finding the workforce that they need today.
Right.
That's without 11,000 new jobs within 30 to 45 minutes of us.
Yeah.
And that's just those 3 announcements. There's many, many more.
Sure.
So I think we're going to see wage pressure. We're going to see ancillary businesses. I think the demand for that's going to continue to go. And I also think that, housing we're going to continue to have a need for additional housing that is affordable or attainable.
So what you're saying is you're not bored.
I'm not bored. No.
You're very busy.
No, they're very complicated issues, and they're all interrelated.
No question.
And there are many factors.
I mean, you're just trying to fit pieces of the puzzle together. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah. So, like, for example, we've recently recruited Bulldog Pipe as a manufacturer. We recruited to Aberdeen. That was someone who the owner of that company lived here in Moore County, and his business was in Missouri, I believe, and said, I want to open a second plant. I'd really love to do it here.
Yeah.
We looked and looked and looked, couldn't find a site for him, finally found something that was off market. So we're spending a lot of our time hunting and pecking and saying, okay, where's a good place for this business to go, right? Where is it an appropriate place to go, right? Looking at surrounding land uses, is there residential around it? Is there infrastructure available? And we're just trying to connect property owners with businesses. We're trying to connect the supply and the demand market, and oftentimes it's stuff that's not on the market. So
let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the USGA U.S. Open coming up as this will drop. This is about a year away. You were part of a group that really was very instrumental in convincing the USGA to come to Pinehurst, to make it their second headquarters, to build Golf House Pinehurst and everything that goes with that and all the U.S. Opens. What was that like? I remember, because everybody had to kind of keep a big secret for a long time. What was it like to be a part of that, and how excited are you to see those buildings going up over at the campus at the Country Club at Pinehurst it's just an amazing thing to see, to go by and see that going up, and it's going to be open at the end of this year.
Yeah, it is. So actually, when the USGA was recruited, I was on the other side of the fence. I was at the village
Right.
of Pinehurst. So working through the incentive, arrangements and with the USGA in the village at that time, I wasn't directly involved, but kind of on the outskirts of that, if you will. But very, very excited about the USGA coming here. I would say the USGA is probably in the top, one of the three employers that I spend the most time with right now.
Yeah.
And that is just assisting them, supporting them. They're going to bring. They've committed to 50 jobs, so they had 15 here roughly. So we're going to have about 35 new jobs. Those average wages are almost double what Moore County's average wages are now, close to that. So good paying jobs, obviously. But I think it's going to benefit us more from this standpoint of reinforcing that Moore County really is the home of American golf.
Yeah.
I think that is what we're going to get from it. The collaboration that I'm seeing between the USGA and Pinehurst Resort and other resorts in the area is very encouraging. Very excited to see, how the landscape of this area is going to change once those facilities actually open.
Yeah.
We're actually helping them too with, we got a $200,000 grant for them for golf testing equipment. So we're helping them with some golf robot purchases right now for their test center. So, that combined with the Hall of Fame going in here as well, and and the fact that we're going to have that ceremony here in 2024. I mean, it's just going to put us on the international stage again, and just let more people know what a wonderful place this is.
And more people moving here.
Exactly.
We know between 2024 and when we host the U.S. Open, double U.S. Open in 2029, men and women, as we did in 2014, the only place on earth that's ever done that. This area is going to change a lot. I mean, I tell people it's like every road coming in and out of here. And I think there's about a dozen DOT projects that'll commence. I mean, you could go out 211 like you're going to Greensboro to Interstate 73 and see them clearing that other side to pave those roads. How much is this area going to change between those two U.S. Opens?
Yeah, so to your point, yes, we will be a construction zone for roads during those 5 years. For sure.
Growing pains.
Yes, that's for sure. I think we're gonna continue to see demand for housing, and in particular, multifamily housing. That's what I'm seeing a lot of. The last census numbers that came out, Moore County was the 8th fastest growing county out of 100 in North Carolina.
Wow, yeah, I believe it.
And having been here for a few U.S. Opens, you can see kind of like the excitement, the enthusiasm, and then the kind of residual effects, if you will, directly after, of interest in people moving here and businesses, thriving. So, I think we will absolutely continue to see that. I think it's a really wonderful thing for our community to have the USGA here, have the U.S. Opens coming back. It exposes the wonderful assets that we have to, like I said, the world, really. And so, I think we're going to continue to see high, growth levels. And in fact, this last census we just went over, or recently just went over the 100,000 mark in terms of total population. Well, we're projected to go to 170,000 by 2050. So, I guess the recurring championships are going through 2047.
Yeah.
Is that correct? Yeah.
And Tony, Tom Pasha, I know I got the numbers down. 2024, 29, 34. Wait a minute. Now you got me confused. 35, 41, and 47. So, so every 5 or 6 years through 40, at an economic impact of $2 billion over the course of the next 25 years.
Yeah.
So, huge.
So I've lived in Moore County for 27 years. I moved here in 96. In the next 27 years, we will grow from 100 to 170. And to put that in perspective, Southern Pines, Pinehurst, Aberdeen, Pine Bluff, Whispering Pines, all of that area is around 50,000 in population. So if you think of an entire another area like that somewhere in Moore County, or we're gonna have them all still coming to
we have to build
coming to the
skyscrapers.
southern end of the county. So I think there's tremendous opportunities for communities like Vass and Carthage and Cameron and Robbins. I mean, those are great communities. They are, they've got great locations. They're, they just got some good assets, and so I see a lot of opportunity for this growth to move outside of the Tri-Cities area and into some of those communities.
We'll have a little fun here. Get away from the business side of things. So it's funny because like sometimes I'll email you it's like, well, I'm going to Europe, or I'm going to go see the Grateful Dead out in California. You're always. I think sometimes because it is a little bit of an island here. Sometimes you need to get out. I mean, me getting out, I go play golf at Kiowa Island. You just got back from Europe. What was that? I mean, how cool was that?
Europe is fun. I love to travel, as you mentioned, and I do that because I like to learn new things. So I like to eat new foods, meet new people. I love it when I meet new people from around the world when I'm traveling. And I love seeing how other communities are, shaped and formed. In fact, we were in Barcelona 2 weeks ago, and they had these riding lanes. And so I looked at my daughter and I said, we should start planning cities. Like everywhere we go, we're looking at, what do those communities offer? And I'm thinking, could we have something like that here in Moore County? So for example, went to Vail a couple years ago. They have the Betty Ford Amphitheater out there. I was like, we should have this in Pinehurst. They have all this, or in Moore County, not necessarily Pinehurst. But yeah, I love traveling. I love to go to warm, sunny places in the Caribbean. I love to go to Europe and try to understand new languages and navigate train systems. And
well, now you've inspired me to maybe. Well, you serve on the Convention Visitors Bureau board. Maybe I go to the board and say, you know what, guys, I need to go to Australia because I may be inspired. I heard about this great thing. Dan, I tell all our staff, hey, go somewhere, go to a workshop that helps you do your job better. So Dan was like, I found this great videography seminar in Hawaii. I'm like, I don't think they're going to go for that. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that's why I have a print of Anthony Bourdain in my dining room because, I loved that show. He had the best job in the whole world, traveled the world, ate food, met people, saw different cultures, and just, it just enhances you and makes you, a more well-rounded person.
Yeah. So like in Barcelona, they have this market off La Rambla, and it's an indoor market, and it's fresh meat, butchers, fresh fish, seafood, eggs, like from all kinds of animals. You can get empanadas, you can get, different wines. And it was just, it's things like that I say, oh man, like Southern Pines, Aberdeen, Pinehurst, I think we would have a market for something like that, right? So,
yeah, similarly, when I lived in China, I got to go to Hong Kong, and you see the street markets there. I mean, you go block after block after block. You're just like, oh wow, oh my God, look at this.
Yeah,
and it's just amazing because those people that's their life, and that's their culture, and it's just so cool to see that.
We have wonderful farmers markets, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to have something like that around, all around the year?
Let's go back to golf. I mean, you play golf
on occasion.
How's your game?
I knew you were going to ask me this because you were a great golfer.
I wouldn't say that.
I, however, am not. I play a couple times a year. I enjoy the cradle.
Yeah.
I think
awesome.
That is my
speed. You like the golf or the transfusions?
Both. But I find when I go out and I try to play a full 18 holes by myself, about hole 13, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to listen to music, have a drink, putt a little bit.
And that's why you're seeing a lot of these cradle concepts
it needs to be
around the country,
for me,
or some making it 12-hole golf course instead of 18. So, I think there's
2 hours. I hit my limit.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you. And then let's talk about this. I always ask this question of people. So the area. You've got your favorite places you like to go. So if somebody came to the destination and says, hey, Natalie, I've never been to the Pinehurst area, where would you recommend people to dine or go see while they're here? if they got a weekend?
Oh, dining. I love the Workshop Tavern in Aberdeen. I love 195 and Elliott's and Chef Warren's. I like Betsy's Crepes. That's a great place. But I would suggest they go down to DeWitt's and shoot some guns.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, their
Cool.
sporting clay course is a whole lot of fun. So that's something different.
I learned a new thing about you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I can shoot guns.
Okay, beware of Natalie with her guns. Man, it's been a pleasure having you on Paradise in the Pines. I mean, your wealth of information, you're a great resource, great asset for obviously economic development, but also for us in tourism. We appreciate all your contributions and everything you do, and wish you the best success. And if we can help in any way, we certainly want to be a part of that.
Great. Thank you, Phil. Appreciate
Thanks,
being
Natalie.
here.
Well, if you want to learn more about the destination, just go to homeofgolf.com. If you want to watch this vodcast, it is a video and audio, Natalie. Just go to our Instagram page, Home of American Golf, and you can also look at our YouTube channel, Home of American Golf. And also, if you like podcasts, download Paradise in the Pines. For Natalie Hawkins, I'm Phil Wers, and we'll see you next time in Paradise in the Pines. That's it. Great job.
Thank you. Can I take these earphones off? Thank you. That was fun.